What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark. Today, season 6, episode 14, and thrice, not once, not twice, but thrice, my friend Jeremy Sheppard, the
Hey,
guitar
man.
hunter. Hey, buddy, how you doing, bud?
Good. This is so fun. I'm glad I'm back for a third time. I love who else has been on this, and I don't feel like I necessarily fit in that list, but I'm very glad to be here, man.
You 100% do. You're my friend. You belong here. We all belong together hanging out. Um, hey, so since this is the third time, and this is the reason I wanted to have you on because a lot has changed
A lot.
with you. So I wanted to hear about everything that's going on and like what's happening with the channel, like versus like what you've got going on at the shop now. So for people that don't know, Jeremy has an awesome YouTube channel. If you don't already subscribe to it, you obviously should. He's an authority on acoustic instruments and has been a real big help to me when I'm kind of researching things and whatnot. But go get that taken care of. Instagram too, Jeremy the Guitar Hunter. But tell everybody what's been going on. So like you kind of got hired on at this shop in town.
Yeah. Yeah, so last year was really kind of coming to a breaking point of like, okay, I don't know how to work harder doing Guitar Hunter and YouTube stuff, and I'm tired of working alone. And a friend of mine who owns a record studio reached out and he was like, hey, we are rebuilding. So the guitar shop, and I drove you by there. The guitar shop in my hometown exploded. Like there was a gas leak, the whole building was gone. So in the process of them rebuilding that shop and then rebuilding the studio that was next door that burned down, my friend Chris was like, hey, the guy that owns the guitar shop wants to sell it. I don't know how to run a guitar shop, but would you want to be involved in this? I was like, absolutely. But I can't give up Guitar Hunter. And so it was like probably 6 or 7 months that we were going back and forth trying to figure out how to make it work. And what we settled on was 4 days a week running a guitar shop, staffing, doing purchasing, figuring out how to train sales staff. And then I would get 1 day a week to do Guitar Hunter. So that was a really welcome thing. I spent most of the fall in Nashville, and we were really trying to figure out like, it basically was like, move to Nashville, spend a lot more time here, double down on the channel, or condense what the channel does, do this thing in the Valley in Virginia. And so we ended up going with that. And so I came into working in a guitar shop again, which I love. Like I did it for 8 years. That's how I paid for college, and I hung around. I met my wife. That's how, I just love working in guitar shops. So I'm back in a guitar shop, and it's really fun. And it's also, working in a guitar shop. So it's getting guys just telling me for 45 minutes about how they missed their chance, man. If they would have heard us in 87, the Scorpions didn't stand a chance.
Dude, so hold on a second. The place where that empty lot was,
Yeah.
they rebuilt a shop.
Yeah.
Oh, how long did that take construction-wise to do that?
Well, so that building is gone. And so they ended up finding out it was literally a mushroom cloud. Like it was one of the largest gas explosions in the last 50 years. And so like the soil underneath it is so like seismic, whatever, because of the explosion. So that site is just over. So they moved. There's like an old grocery store just like over the hill. So next time you come down, I'll show you. But it's like an old 50s grocery store. So it's really awesome. So my friend Chris is just an amazing entrepreneur. So the first business he has that's already in that building is a vinyl pressing plant. Oh, which you and I emailed about.
Yeah, I talked to him. Yep.
Yeah, so they're pressing vinyl records, and that's an amazing kind of separate operation. They bought the guitar shop. It's moving into there. We're putting a coffee shop in this same grocery store since we have like this huge industrial kitchen.
Oh, cool.
And then in the back, we're building out a studio, rehearsal spaces, and a venue. And so it's 26,000 square feet of music stuff.
That's awesome, dude. What a great way for you to get back into it, man. Like, because that's so much, it's like a blank slate that has so much opportunity. That's your jam, man, because you are such an entrepreneur and you have such a creative mind for this kind of thing to like bring it all together. That's so fun.
Thanks, man. I mean, that's the thing so I loved like my prior career being in sales and business development. And I missed the like large scale building something, selling, building a team of people around something. And while Guitar Hunter has been amazing, it's a lot of time, and you know this, like it's a lot of time sitting in a room by yourself talking to a camera.
Right.
And so it's not super social. And
No.
yeah, and so this one is like when this opportunity came up, because it also like the compensation side, because I have 3 kids and my wife stays home with my kids, like there was quite a monkey on my back. And so with this, like it gives such stability that then the YouTube stuff I get to do now, I get to just swing for the fences and buy ridiculous cool stuff. And I just relaunched my Dream Guitar Challenge, where I start with $500 and I snowball, give money to charity along the way, and then finish up with, a dream guitar.
Man, that is super cool. So I got to ask you with this, if you're doing like inventory and shopping for guitars, like I know that this store is, I remember seeing a video of you talking about like this is not going to be crazy high end stuff. It's going to be mid level
Yeah.
stuff because people come through here, whatever,
Yeah.
and maybe you'll build that reputation. But like, has that been challenging? Getting the stuff that you think would fit, like that, the
Yeah.
demographics, like how's that worked out?
Yeah. So, I mean, where we are in the Valley is a very blue collar community, very agricultural, and very Mennonite. So we've had to really like figure out how to thread the needle with that of like on one side people want frugality, on the other side they value craftsmanship in the Amish and Mennonite world. And so it's been really interesting. I've had to really, really commit to educating myself on certain guitar lines that I just hadn't paid much attention to. Like I had not paid attention to Fender solid state amps or like the PRS SE stuff.
Yeah.
And I've had to do a total crash course in those to know how to speak intelligently about them. And then we sell drums. I know nothing about drums. And so and a bunch of keys. So
Really? Okay.
yeah.
So you guys are really filling it out, man. That's cool.
Yeah, we just picked up Yamaha, and so we have Yamaha Music Group and Yamaha Guitar Group. And so we have like all of the cool like Ampeg. We just did an order of Ampeg, and Guild was just bought by Yamaha.
Oh, really?
Which I'm a huge Guild guy. So that's one where I'm very excited. And then we're working on some other stuff behind the line, behind the scenes. My wife has said, she's like, there's only one brand that I'm really concerned about you having dealer pricing to, and that's Martin Guitars. So
Fair
I
enough.
am in trouble. So we're trying to work on that. I mean, that's of the big lines that we're going for. That's the real one that we've got to really consider and figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, man. Well, here's a Martin segue. So I just went to NAMM last week, and Chris and I went into the Martin booth, and they're doing a lot of crazy stuff now where they're like, distressing guitars and like doing stuff like that, which you never really see that with acoustics only until recently. But Chris picked up a Martin Triple O, I think it was 15M.
Yeah, the Street Master.
So he really liked that. He was like,
Yeah.
"Can you ask Jeremy is this thing worth that money? Is it like super huge value for your buck?" Because when he played it, he was just like, "This is freaking great."
Yes,
So I wanted your opinion.
I think they're the best value under $2,000 for Martins right now. So the Triple O is the body size, so it's a smaller, really comfortable body size. It's a shorter scale length than a Dreadnought, so it's a little more slinky and more comfortable. It's a dovetail. Nope. Well, it's a simple dovetail joint, how they put the neck together. But the 15 means the series, which means it's mahogany top, back, and sides. And then M on the end means that it's actually mahogany. It's not sapelli. So with that one, it's an incredibly light guitar. Like they're under 4 pounds almost all the time. I just had one. I got one from Martin. I met them at IBMA, and then they sponsored a video through Sweetwater. And so we did a video on it. And I love it. I think it's a great guitar. Especially, it's a good segue if you're coming from playing electric guitar. There's certain guitars that are, because it's a skinnier neck profile, smaller body, pretty lightweight. Yeah, there's a pretty high payoff.
he's huge into slim necks, so when he picked that up, he was like, great. Because I went over and I've only played like the John Mayer model like one other time,
Yeah.
and it was in Nashville and it was set up really poorly. And I picked it up again, and I'm like, it's okay. Like,
Hmm.
I kind of like Clapton's model more than Mayer's model, even though they're
Yeah.
seem pretty close in a way.
Yeah. The Clapton has a giant neck.
I
Like
know
a,
it's comfortable to me, not to
yeah.
Chris.
I love them. Yeah. I like
Yeah,
bigger, more ridiculous necks. Yeah.
yeah. It was, dude, and then they had we went to Norm's, and
Hmm.
I can't remember the guitar. If I think of it, it starts with an L. What's the name of like that? Like is it a?
Loudon.
It might have been Loudon. It's a weird shape. Like the cutaways are kind of strange. I don't know, but it was a used.
Larrivee.
Oh, Larrivee. That's what it
Yeah.
was. It was a used guitar, and it felt and it sounded amazing. And I was like,
Dude,
dude,
I
you
just did
gotta.
a video. I just did a video about Larave's because I got an LV10, which is their kind of top of the line. And it's like, and mine, I clickbaited people pretty hard on it. I said, like, why does no one buy Larave's? Which the reality is, lots of people buy them, but not a ton of people hang on to them. And so you can find them used for, to me, feels like way too little money. You know, their $1,500 used guitar started at $4, and yeah. So
That's crazy.
don't. I has well, no, I'm not gonna let brands. So every now and then I'll say something like that, and then I'll get an email from an artist rep or something like.
I think we're both agreeing they're great guitars. I mean, it's
They're
like
incredible.
it sounded amazing, and I think Chris and I were both like, well, I don't love the look of it, but I can get over that real quick
Yeah.
because it sounds so damn good.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the store and everything. So you're how are they open like 6 days a week, but you're only there 4 days a week, kind of thing?
Yeah. So the first thing we had to do, so the original owner of the shop stayed on, and he's like, "Hey, my wife wants me to work less, and I don't want to work Saturdays." And so our first thing was like, "All right, well, let's staff up and get to where Chuck can have off on Saturdays." And then my wife and Chris's wife both are like, "Hey, you have little kids. Be a good dad. Figure out how to be here on Saturdays."
Right.
And so the immediate tension we had was like, well, I mean, Chris and I are both just like natural salespeople, and we love guitars and we love instruments, and but we immediately realized like, okay, we've got to figure out how to train people to be good salespeople, so that we don't have to be here as much, because it's also like we can do the things that our part-timers can do, but they can't do the things that we need to do. Like, they can't make decisions on which guitars we need to order, or what brands we're going to pick up, or all the accounts receivable stuff. So I've had to learn to really delegate some stuff and to trust people. So we have 3 part-timers that are just unbelievably talented. And they're young and they're excited. And having been, the 19-year-old working at a guitar shop, I'm very excited about the 3 that we have. We only have 2 right now that are going to be there for a long time. Another guy is working for us through the summer, and then he's out.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah,
And
man.
then what's the name of the shop again?
It's Hometown Music.
Okay. Just so everybody knows, if you're swinging through that part of Virginia. I think that what I found interesting about this shift, because I didn't know, we hadn't talked, and then all of a sudden one day you're like, this
Yeah.
is what I'm doing now. Which made total sense to me, just knowing your history even with New Orleans and what you were doing throughout your life with guitar shops and everything. But what I found interesting about that is that, like, because you balance and you juggle a lot of plates. So I'm like, man, he's already so busy, but it sounds like you're really happy, and it sounds like you've got, you're where you should be right now.
Yeah, and that's where there were a couple things that I was really ready to give up. And so when I started doing YouTube stuff, I never planned on talking about new guitars. I never planned on doing reviews. And part of that, it comes from just didn't feel like my lane. And then the bigger thing was and whenever I say this, people are like, no, you're a great guitar player. But for me, I'm like, well, I'm not a phenomenal guitar player, so why would I show off? I can show how a guitar sounds. But so by the end of last year, I was just so burned out from doing how does this guitar sound? Here's what's good about it. Here's what I don't like about it. I was just so tired of that. So when this opportunity came up, I was like, I can go back to the things I love doing, which is buying guitars used from people, bringing a camera along, showing the crazy things I can find out and about. So that's where I was like ready to go. And I consulted my patrons because I've got this like chunk of people that have been with me for years. And I was like, hey, here's what's going on in my personal life. Here's what's going on in the professional life. And here's the move I want to make. Are you guys on board with that? What do you think? And there was a resounding support of like, you should train other people how to sell guitars. You should, do what's good for your family. And you should get back to what you want to do. So it all the stars aligned for it to work out. But I mean, it's been kind of a rough transition in some ways because I'm back like working in retail, and I'm back to like, well, the shop is open until 6:00, and so it's the fastest I can get home is about 6:15.
Right.
And so that's where I have more time in the morning. Like we open at 10.
Mm-hmm.
So it's especially like I'm doing 4 8-hour days, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. But even Friday, I do my live show on the afternoons, and then it's condensed where all of my Guitar Hunter stuff happens on Thursdays.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, working like a lunatic where I'm like, all right, I'm going to film 3 videos on a Thursday.
Dude, man, so yeah, you got to be really planful, huh?
Yes, I have an assistant who's unbelievable. She's so good at just getting all the ducks in a row. And she's really good. I can just say, hey, this thing's annoying. And she's like, I got it. I'll handle it.
Nice.
And so like all of because I pride myself on like, well, I've had to give this up, but I loved like all my merch stuff. I just did my merch myself. And so like every t-shirt that went out, every hat, every bag of coffee, like I would get to write a note. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, if I'm doing 40 of those a week on top of filming videos and doing lives and trying to do other podcasts, and it just, and have a wife who like sees me and kids who I get to see.
Yeah.
Just all of stuff had to change.
Yeah, man. The work-life balance is a thing, and it's important to be able to have the foresight to be like, dude, this isn't sustainable, like in terms of I need to figure out and pivot so I'm more creative, or I'm inspired to be creative. Because like you probably know this, but I'm sure like your audience too could tell if you were trying to phone it in, which you don't do, but they could tell.
I've had some by last fall. People were like, "Hey, I remember when you did other stuff, and I like that other stuff better."
Right.
And I was like, yeah. But at the same time, I mean, this too from doing stuff during COVID. Like, people were like, I miss when you would do that. I'm like, that was like, I had no other option because I left my full-time job right before COVID, not knowing. And it's like, I'm going to go full-time in YouTube and go. And so all of a sudden I'm like in a basement. So that's where it's like, okay, well, I can't go back there.
Right.
To that kind of video. And also, like, it's just different because now people are like, I remember when you used to go out and buy guitars all the time. And I'm like, I have 44 guitars right now. Like,
you do?
I made the mistake of counting like two weeks ago.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I've sold a bunch, but I get them faster than I can sell them. They just find me.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, there's days when I'm sitting here and I'm like, I could use this and I would use it and I would play it. But I can't, like, I'd have to sell something would have to give, you know what I mean? And I can't do that because the instruments I do have are what I use on my gigs.
Yeah.
So it makes it so hard. And then we have to at some point get together because you have to play my grandfather's acoustic.
I know. Yes.
Dude, that thing, I sold my Taylor immediately. As soon as I played it, I was like, okay, I don't need 2 acoustics. This thing is like a cannon. It's just like so rich, and like all the frequencies that come out of that thing, it's just perfect. Like, I don't know what magic is in that thing, but it sounds great.
Man, I love those. I've been trying to work out a deal with Scott. I have 2 guitars that would be excellent that I've wanted to have him rebuild and us do a giveaway on one, and I get to keep one. So we're working on details, but he's just so busy. But man, I really want to play yours. And someone offered me 2 of them on a consignment. That's another thing that's had to slow down. Lots of people have been sending me guitars to sell. And I've just had to say no because I just have no room or time. Yeah, but they just stack up.
Yeah, literally. I've been in your studio.
I had to, yeah.
There he is.
Yeah, there he is.
And then Max, I don't remember what we just said, but he said never tell me the odds. Oh, there we go. There's
Dude,
Chris's.
One of my absolute favorite pedals.
Nice. So store. So, and we talked a little bit of how that's affecting your channel. So you're still doing it, but it's just like you got to cram things in the week to do them. So when you said you got to shoot 3 videos, is that like 3 videos a week? I can't remember how many videos you're posting per week, or is that just like so you do it out a little bit?
I try to do them out. It's hard too because you're like, I don't know if you do this. Like for me, I'll catch like the story I want to tell. And then it will just be like for a week. It's all my brain is thinking about behind washing dishes, putting kids to bed, or like, like as I'm walking in the morning, I'm like, okay, if I have a setup shot like this, and then I talk about this guitar in this way and tell that story, I can put it together. So I'm doing lots of like the directing in my mind all the time. So by the time I get to my shoot day, I can crank them out pretty quick because I've thought through and I've put them together in my brain. But yeah, 3 is wildly optimistic. If I can do 1 video and 2 reels, or if I can shoot a bunch of photos that I can then share throughout the week, I'm trying to put out 2 videos a week plus a live show, which is still crazy.
It's a lot.
Yeah, so that's where that's been the hardest thing for me for whatever reason. It feels like if I don't do this, people will give up on me. People will stop watching my channel, and
I know. There was this one time when I was just super busy, and I didn't have the energy to shoot a video, and I just couldn't do it. And I said something to Chris. I was like, oh, I feel bad. I can't post a video. He's like, how dare you have a life kind of thing. And I'm like, that's true. You know what? Like I still did my show this week. Like people still have something to watch for this week. It's okay every now and again. If I'm like, dude, I gotta like control like my anxiety too. Like when it comes to that, I need to realize it's okay,
Yeah. And it's hard too, especially, I'm not swayed by the comments that much. But just how people receive things, I think is pretty unhealthy. Not how they receive them, but how you set so much, I feel good about myself or I feel bad about myself based on how this video is received, or if a lot of people watch it, or, YouTube is pretty intense. Like, those things where it's like, this video is 10 out of 10, which does not mean what you think it would mean. It's like, this is your worst performing video in the last 10 videos. And then it gives you the sentence. It's like fewer of your regular viewers are choosing to watch this, and they are watching it for less time. You should not do this anymore.
You know what's terrible, Jeremy, is I don't pay attention to that stuff.
Good.
I probably should to grow my channel better.
I pay too much attention to it.
Yeah. Well, look how successful you are, though, too. Like you've kind of gained a lot of ground in the past couple of years, and it's because you work hard. So.
Yeah, and that's where like it's funny, man. Like what insecurities or what stories you tell yourself. Like every day in my mind, I tell myself I'm lazy. Like I hear that. I don't tell, but I like hear that. Where I'm like, you're lazy. You're not working hard. And then I like take a moment and look. I'm like, I can't do any more. Like I am at max churn.
Yeah, that's like your narrative, like your anxiety narrative in a way. Yeah. That's fair though, because like I think with someone so driven like you, it's kind of hard to not be hard on yourself. I mean, I don't want, as your friend, I'm like, you need to be easier on yourself. Like, don't say that to yourself. But like it's kind of comes with the territory when you're creative and you work really hard and you care about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Too.
That's the thing is like I'm now like I'm not a small YouTuber. Like for years I was like, and that's how Rhett Shull and I became friends when my channel was tiny, and I just sent a form on his website and he reached out, And but at that point, he was kind of where I am now, and he was giving me advice. And I'm now getting to where I'm giving people advice. And the thing I keep coming back to is like, be formidable and be consequential. Like, if you're going to do something, you have to be really good at what you do. And then you have to be able to challenge. Like, it has to be costly for people to kind of view the world the way that you, like, if you're calling people to a higher version of themselves. And so for me, like, yeah, I talk about guitars, but I really talk about humanity and friendship and transcendence and community. So that's where I'm like, for me, the stakes feel very high. For, yeah, I'm making guitar videos, but it matters to the world that this stuff gets done.
Yeah, it's like an episode of Full House. There's always a moral to the story every episode. It's true though, man. I mean, I think there's, what's the ultimate goal? Like, you know, for you, it's that. It's like that message of the underlying message of like community and friendship and like spreading the love of music through, you know, the web of that you've woven. You know, whereas for me, I'm curious about people's stories. Like, I want to hear like, how the hell did you get where you are now? Like,
Yeah.
you know, what happened that set you on the path to like really wholeheartedly go after something, you know?
Yeah.
And there's so many people that I talk to too, like, even for me, I mean, that I have a bit of, I would say, privilege in the fact that I have a day job, that I don't have to rely on YouTube. And I hope one day I can rely on YouTube and just do that, because it's where my heart is. But, you know, eventually you got to keep food on the table, and my wife and I do that well together, but it's a real thing when you're an adult, man.
Yeah, seriously. So. And kids only get more expensive as they get older. That's where it's like, oh, we could handle being broke with little kids, because you're like, you know,
they don't care.
Yeah, they eat this much food a day. But now where kids are like, I'm so hungry, and you're like, you already ate, you're good. You're just.
It's true, man. And dude, yeah, I mean, we had just got our kid braces like a month or so ago. This is their second round of braces.
Okay, our
the first wasn't that bad. Oh god, yeah, that wasn't bad. The second round, I was like, what? How come the first round was so much cheaper? Like, what is this all about? So yeah, it just continues. Now, granted, we only have one, so I can't speak to the 3-kid thing, but whew, man. Yep, strap in. All right, so before we start running out of time, since I just did go to NAMM, and since how many times have you been there?
0. I've never been to NAMM. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
there's a gaping hole. I did a live show last week of like, I'm not going to, why I didn't go to NAMM. And it's literally like, I feel very insecure where I'm like, am I even a real YouTuber if I didn't go to NAMM?
Right.
Yeah.
You are. But my question to you, since, you know, I talked to a couple of different people in different booths, and like, dude, I don't know if I'm going to come back. It's like, we don't really need to, like, the way that the YouTube and internet, and like we have all these people who are pushing our products regardless. What do you think? Do you think it's still relevant, or do you think there's a reason for it? I know that Chris and I were talking about it, and his point was that he thinks that the overseas companies benefit way more than the domestic. So like, what are your thoughts on that? That's
where I noticed most of the people that I follow on YouTube that were there, like Blue Bell Straps came from Spain. A lot of other, like Kafir was there. Do you know Kafir? He's like an Israeli guitar player on YouTube and Instagram. I met him at the FERC event last summer, but he is like a giant channel, like 4 million subscribers. Jeez. But his whole thing is like, he never talks. But he's just this like Israeli guy that plays like super shreddy 80s, kind of like if Slash and Paul Gilbert had a baby. Like,
oh, okay.
But that's
so he's legit.
He's really, really good. Okay. But yeah, so, and then Carlos from Guitarra Viva, which is a Spanish guitar channel, all those guys came in, and it seemed to be a really good thing for them. But Fender wasn't there, Gibson wasn't there. Everyone I knew, like, there was a lot of pressure from NAMM for me to go, especially since now I'm at the shop. So there were lots of emails on like, here's how you do it. But for me, I just couldn't justify the expense personally or for the shop. But years ago, like for dealers, you would only get certain deals if you went to NAMM, and then you would have to bring your order. Like, the guy, the first shop I worked in, Warren, would go to NAMM, and then at NAMM he would get that deal where he'd get the extra 10% off for the rest of the year and free shipping from Martin.
Oh, wow.
But you had to come and then you'd have to pay with a check while you're there. And so there was like intense pressure, like come to this event and you will save $20,000 and it will ensure that your business makes money for the rest of the year. Where now they're like, they will do like all these NAMM specials, but they don't require you to be there. It's just put in your order by the end of Friday.
Right.
And you can get an extra 5% or an extra 7% off of something.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. The market is still trying to figure out what to do with influencers, because that's the big, like, NAMM used to be go and meet a celebrity, and now it's go and meet YouTubers.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean that's the part that I think is really interesting that brands are still trying to figure out. You have people whose hustle it is to feature your products so they get views, but then you're selling guitars through that. So it's kind of like just the ecosystem of how these guitars are getting sold has really changed. Yeah, and I don't know, I'm still trying to thread the needle here because I now have to wear two hats of like a guitar hunter who's like, there are brands I like, but I have no allegiance necessarily. But then on the other side, I'm like, well, I am a PRS dealer and a Fender dealer and I start working through the brands where I'm like, okay, don't say anything bad about those guys.
Right.
So I'm trying to tease this apart.
It's tough, man. And honestly, I mean, it was still pretty big, like comparatively speaking, even with those guys not there, all those different companies. But like, not having PRS and not having Gibson and not having Fender and Sir, I would love to have, kind of seen Sir stuff again. But, it still felt like a good hang. But, I did hear about some new companies. Like we went to, there was a booth, BMF Effects. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So this guy, Scott, and I have a mutual friend, and he was like, stop by and tell him you're my friend and blah, blah, blah. And so he walked us through his whole pedal line. He was super great. I'd never heard of his effects pedals before. And several of them, I was like, I'd like to have that, and that. And he makes this really cool wah pedal. So the enclosure is different. There's a larger sweep than a normal, like, Dunlop.
Yeah.
Like I have that exotic wah. So he's like, it's a larger frequency sweep, which he wanted to make happen. And then the circuit board inside is removable.
Hey.
And you can buy his other circuit boards for different wah sounds, and you just put it in, click it in, and it's all like analog too. It's not like Jackson Audio, that fuzz pedal where it had that like circuit board we could pop in and out. It's not like that. So it's all components and like caps and resistors and stuff. He popped it open and showed us, and it's really cool, man. Like, so he has got something really neat going on, and like, had I not gone, I wouldn't have known about that.
Yeah, that's what. There's a guitar an amp company that just reached out to me a couple weeks ago. They were trying to figure out if we can get one here at some point for me to make a video on. It's have you heard? It's Airspeed.
No.
So it's Airspeed amplifiers. It's the guy that he originally made. There was the guitar with all the LEDs that was kind of like the piano that would show you where to play.
Yeah.
So the guy that came out of that, he got bought out of that company, and now he started this amp company. But he sent me pictures and the website of Airspeed amps. Airspeed? Land Speed? Oh boy, should have paid attention.
Super cool name, regardless of that.
Yeah, I think it's Airspeed, but their whole thing is he's like. It's the same problem that lots of guitar players have had. Like, I played a super reverb, and I love this sound. And I played a JCM, like a JTM. And I didn't get the same sounds, I want one amp that does both. So he's made an amp that is literally, like, 6L6s and EL34s. And it's able to, like, run two different speaker signals. And then each of the cabinets are stereo. But they're not necessarily left and right. They are like a Fender jangly thing and a drivey Marshall thing out of two inputs, and then you can blend them together. So it's really like two amps in one. Airspeed. But But
Chris, was that the name of that amp that we were going to go check out? Let me know, because there was an amp that he was describing. We bopped around Saturday and went to a bunch of
got it.
guitar stores, and he there was like an amp company that very very similar to
Okay.
the concept that you're describing.
Where they do
I
like
don't.
either a 212 cabinet or a 412, but
Oh,
they're very expensive. Like I
yeah.
think the amp is $8,000 and the cabinets are $4,000 each. And they're
Jeez.
like, we recommend you get two cabinets. We're like,
Of course you do.
I'm sure you do.
Oh yeah, he said down brownie is the other. Have you heard
Okay.
of this?
No.
The way he described that one, that sounded cool too. But I mean, there's so many different. That's the thing. There's so many different
Yeah.
companies right now, and not all the small boutique amp builders were there, but like there
Yeah.
was, High Watt had some cool stuff. There's like a new High Watt amp that sounds pretty dope. That's lower wattage, like a
Yeah.
20 watt
Yeah.
amp. That was neat. But then like Rev was there, and there
Hmm.
was a handful of them. But by and large, the guitar community there is much bigger than like the drums
Yeah.
and the keyboard section and all that stuff. Which is so funny because I don't know why we didn't go into the keyboard section. I should have
Hmm.
gone in there and looked at stuff. But it was in two different buildings too this time. So like they had like ESP and Yamaha were upstairs,
Hmm.
normally where like Fender and Gibson and PRS would be kind of in the Anaheim Convention Center. But the pro audio section was in a different building. So we went out and went to the pro audio
Got it.
section to check out mics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's so much smaller, the space. So it felt like butts to nuts, like in there. It was definitely a
Yeah.
much, more crowded, which was interesting. But every booth seemed like it was just crammed, like in there in
Yeah.
that space. But it
I
was
wonder.
fun.
The one I saw from everybody was the Benson Echo Rec.
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
thing is, I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. We were at Emilio Cornerstone's thing.
Hmm.
And right next to him was VS Audio. And I know both those dudes. And Panis was like showing us he has a new Silver Jubilee in a box pedal. And it sounded awesome. Like
Awesome.
I really liked it. I mean, it was like I don't play with heavy gain, but when I put the headphones on playing through it, I was like, holy crap, this thing's like and then when I put that down, Mick Taylor had walked up to Cornerstone. So he was chilling, playing through some stuff. And we were just kind of like after he was done, we were just all talking about how all these pedals, like there's all these companies around this like
Hmm.
horseshoe thing that had all these different pedals, and there's just so many of them now. There's just like,
Dude, that's,
it's a
it
lot.
feels like from a business side, such a scary endeavor to start a pedal company right now. If you need it to, like, it can only be fun. Like, if you need it to make your way, it's just so scary to me. Because that's what, like, I mean, you've got, like, these legacy brands, like, PRS just brought out their first 3 pedals, and I'm sure there are going to be more coming. And so you start seeing, like, there's such stout competition on every tier of that. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it used to be like, well, it's a Boss pedal, but it's modded and cloned, and but now it's just, and it's so volatile.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where like I've been really curious about Josh Scott, and I know you've talked about that a lot. But just I forgot I don't know if I can do it now. Anyway, I've got a joke for later.
Okay.
I don't know if I can do it.
And BV was kind of echoing. So Fender and Gibson Pierce don't need to be there. Overall, seemed a better atmosphere. But yeah, I think like the mid-sized companies and like the companies from overseas are getting more and more kind of exposure going to NAMM.
It's kind of
Yeah. So, but I feel like the overall, man, like it was more fun just to kind of hang and see people that I've never met in person. That out of
Yeah.
anything, the hang was super fun.
oh, it did. Okay, it's not getting me. Okay, I'll turn it back off.
No, but yeah, you definitely have. That's hysterical.
Yeah, but I do think it's oh boy. I've
Oh, but you
broken
know
it.
what? While you get that back, about the Benson Echo Rec. So when we were talking to Mick, he was like, "Oh, have you guys gone over and checked that out?" We're like, "No," and he's like, "Oh, it's amazing, but it's like $1,400 or something crazy."
I think
like,
no, it's more than that. I think it's 2,100.
oh yeah. That is nuts, dude. I can't imagine you like wanting to take that out of my house.
Yeah,
Like, that's scary, dude. I feel
seriously.
like, like something like that mechanical too. Like I wouldn't want to move it much.
I broke it. I broke my camera.
Oh no. You
All
can
right.
log out and log back in if you want.
I'll just go to my. If I go to my.
I can do a song and a dance. Oh, there you are.
There it is. Okay.
Is it
Uh
catching
huh.
up?
I don't know. I
You're
broke it.
frozen.
That joke wasn't worth it.
If you want, for real though, Jeremy, you could just go out and come back in.
All right.
Oh, and wait. Hold on. There you are.
Okay. So I'm on my like camera, my computer camera now.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So anyway, I feel like that's the moral to the story is like, do they really need to be there? And like with people like you and Brett and everybody else that's kind of very good with the education of these products and all that stuff, like they don't really need to be spending 30 grand to have a tiny booth, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Just seems that way. I don't know. I probably won't go again unless something really cool is afoot and I'm like, I gotta be there, for something.
Yeah, unless they start making it to where there are specific experiences that only happen. Certain deals for dealers, which that's the other thing is they're really, NAMM is not prioritizing smaller guitar retailers.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a million ways in which that's problematic. The big one is that it's just, there are deals and pricing and exceptions to map pricing agreements that Guitar Center and Sweetwater, and I'm a Sweetwater affiliate, but they get to buy things cheaper than dealers can buy them for and sell them at 30% less than dealers can even buy them for.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think it's really problematic. So that's the crash course I'm in now in small guitar retail, trying to figure out well, we're so profitable, but man, we got to hustle for it.
Yeah.
And then we have people because now you have dealers like Fender and Taylor are now selling direct. And so they are we have people come in the shop, ask us for something, they price check it on their phone, and they're like, oh, I can buy it from Fender directly for 20% off. And that's where we're like, okay.
Yeah, right.
Our own brands are competing against us.
Oh my gosh, dude. That's crazy. Do you find that stuff do you guys do a lot of online sales now too? Are you doing?
We're getting there. So
Okay.
one of the lines that we've really picked up and put a lot of effort into is Alvarez Yairi, the handmade Japanese ones. We got five of them in last week. We sold 4 instantly, overnight, just people that follow me on YouTube and stuff. And I'm sure we'll sell the other one next. And so part of our strategy has been just go where our competitors are not putting effort or energy. So we're Alvarez Yairi are amazing.
Yeah.
So, the website e-commerce is tricky, but we're getting there. So our website now, pretty much you could buy whatever you want, but it's all the headaches for us on the back end of are we getting sales tax, and how do we automatically make a label for that, and who's going to fulfill the order? But we're getting there. That's a great problem to have.
Yeah.
We made money while we weren't paying payroll. Okay.
Go figure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. Well, I'm sure having you kind of at the helm is going to help that business tremendously, not only because of your knowledge, but because of your experience in dealing with e-commerce and your own merch and all that stuff. And just being organized with it too. I mean, I'm constantly astounded and kind of what you do and how you handle and manage everything, man. It's pretty awesome.
That means a lot, man. Because, it regularly feels oh, what's happening? I'm 3 seconds from being exposed as not knowing anything.
No, man. No, you got it. Hey, before we get into lightning round territory, is there any since the last time we spoke, in person, whatever?
Yeah.
What do you have right now that you are so fired up about that you're I'm keeping this forever? This is never going anywhere.
I just did a video about this one today, but this one showed up.
Ooh, is that a Santa Cruz?
It's a Santa Cruz. So this is a D12. So this was designed with Norman Blake in Santa Cruz for him to go on tour in the early 2000s, or sorry, in the early 90s with Tony Rice.
Dang.
And so he designed this. He never played this one, but this is from the first run. They do a couple of these a year. But this one came, one of my patrons had this guitar, and he's getting older, and he's got a bad back. And he's like, it's just too big. I mean, it's a giant box.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, can I trade you? I had another Husson Dalton. And so I traded him a small, like a 00 12 fret for this big one. And we're both just like, totally happy with it.
Man, I've heard so much about those guitars. When did that company start?
That's a good question. I don't know a ton about Santa Cruz. I would bet in the 80s. That's when a lot of, like, first wave of boutique acoustic guitars was in the 60s. Second wave was, like, early 80s.
Yeah.
And then we're in, like, the total renaissance right now.
Okay. I think when I was down at your studio and hanging, like, you exposed me to Colin Hayes, like, his, like, solo record, that one solo record.
He's so freaking good.
I think he plays those. I think he plays Santa Cruz guitar. Okay. Has he been playing those for a long time? Or
he also has a Maton, since he's Scottish, but didn't he live in Australia at some point? Or maybe it's just I'm thinking down under.
Down under. Because that's how basic we are.
Yeah. But so he plays a Maton as well. But there's a YouTube video of him playing I might not get over you, whatever that song is. Mm-hmm. But he talks about Santa Cruz and driving the PCH and needing to get a Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard so many good things about those guitars, and I know that there's got to be some other player that I'm forgetting about where did I hear about this first? But when I did hear one for the first time, I was like, wow, that's such a natural, boomy, like, but articulate instrument. Which is how I feel about my grandfather's guitar now. I call it Wayne. So if you ever hear me refer to Wayne, so that's my grandfather's name. But yeah, so like there's something about that. Like when you hear an instrument like that just speaks. It's just like Chris. When I was at Chris's house, he's got a couple great guitars, but there was this Telly that he kind of put together. And it's one of the most liveliest sounding Tellys. It's this beautiful, like, sunburst, like, double bound Telly.
That's what.
I don't know, man.
You haven't played this one, I don't think. This is my Rich Allen Blackguard. So my friend Rich made this one for me. And it is, like, just the most badass, like, broadcaster spec. And the heavy relic. So that one, that's cool because I got that one to demo. And he was like, how about you keep that guitar? And I was like, oh my gosh. So I got that in exchange for the video, but he's become like such a great friend. Like we were just texting earlier, like before the show. And so that's my thing now is like, I'm getting to where I have all these guitars that are built by friends.
Yeah.
Like Steve Daines built this crazy boxwood, that is just unbelievable materials. And every time I play it, people are like, that's a crazy box guitar. Like,
yeah, it sounds great though.
But it sounds freaking amazing.
Yeah.
So that's where I've just got so many guitars built by incredible friends these days. So that's where I'm like, okay, everything else can go. I still kind of dream every now and then. I'm like, what if I just sold everything? Well, there would still be 8 or 10 guitars that I couldn't get rid of.
Like the Paisley. I mean, you'll probably never get rid of that one, right? Am I wrong?
I can't point this way.
Yeah.
No, I love that one. That's the one my wife has said, like, every other guitar can go, this one can't go.
Yeah.
And that I have an ongoing joke. Like, my patrons are always like, when are you going to make a video on that? What's the story with that one? I'm like, I'm working on it this week. It'll come out next week. So I recently pushed somebody too far on that one. They were like, he's been saying that shit for 5 years.
That is a good story though on that guitar. So people need to hear it.
I think I'm gonna swap. I just ordered some of the Fender, the Kunafi Telly pickups, so I think I'll put those in there because it just seems like the aesthetic will be fun and they should sound fun and different. Because right now I have Seymour Duncan Antiquities in there. So it sounds like the most twangy 50s country Telly. And that's not necessarily what that guitar, it's like pink paisley. It needs to be funky and fun and different.
Yeah. There's so many. This is something new I'm learning about too about pickups is like how much of a difference that can make. I never really swapped
Hmm.
pickups in anything, but I'm starting to, and I'm like, oh wow, it can totally change the life of an instrument, you
Yeah.
know. Um, and even like in that acoustic, you know, in Wayne, there's a K&K pickup. I think I asked
That's
you,
a
I was like,
great.
do you
Yeah,
think?
that's the right
Yeah,
choice.
it's a good pickup. It sounds great. And when I tested it in my interface, like I put a mic on it and then
Yeah, I
I
saw
plugged
that.
it, I was like, wow, man, this is pretty amazing. Like
Hmm.
how great this pickup is handling this instrument and like really letting you understand how it's supposed to sound.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, man, it's like slapping a mic on that thing is really where it's at.
Hmm.
So, but
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, man. There's so much like there's so much gear now. I had the dude I had on my show last week is this guy James Finnerty, and he has a company called Rewind Electric. So
Hmm.
it's and he has built. I can tell you later more after he gives me the okay to tell the stuff that he's been building for certain famous people. But it like when he told me, I was like, what? Like, so he's already kind of a big deal. Like a lot of people know about him, like
Hmm.
in the undercurrent of the pickup world, but he's about to get a lot busier, I think.
Yeah.
So put it that way.
I love that. I mean, you can find people, and it's so cheap for people to get in building like 50s and 60s spec Strat and Telly pickups. Like it's
Mm,
really fun. There's tons of payoff in that, and they all sound fun and different. Like every pickup sounds different to some
yeah,
extent.
yeah. Well, you know, it's worth it. People out there, if you think your guitar is dead, try putting new pickups in it.
Yeah,
Might can
and
totally
I mean
change everything.
it's the thing. Like if you do it right, swap it like a loaded pick guard. Like you
Yeah.
can swap a Strat and then swap it back if you don't like it, and no one would ever know that it was
Nope.
modded.
Yep. Totally. That's great advice. All right, Jeremy, you want to do this thing?
Let's do
Let's
it.
do the. All right. So I changed it up this time because we've already done the normal thing like
That's true.
twice. So what we're gonna do this time is I actually have like specific 10 questions. I want you to try to do
Whoa.
it as rapid as you can.
Okay.
You're not too heady. It's not like about World War II history or anything crazy.
Yeah.
Um, so first one, what's your favorite music documentary?
Okay, it's not a documentary, but the first Crossroads changed my
Okay.
life.
Okay.
Other than
All
that,
right.
I watched the Jason Isbell one that is amazing.
I gotta watch that.
It's
Yeah,
so
I
good.
should do that. Okay. Yeah. You're the second person who's told me that this week. So best budget acoustic.
The Eastman E1 SS. It's like a J45 thing. It's like $550 brand new. Comes with the case. It's all solid.
Dang. Favorite late night snack.
Popcorn with sesame oil, coconut oil, nutritional yeast, and like Cajun. I'm in deep into popcorn these days.
Okay. um, dream guitar amp.
Ooh. Oh. Probably like a 64, 65 super.
Okay.
Like a super reverb.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's kind of an
Um,
everyman's pick.
it is, but it's for a good reason. I mean, they
Or
sound
let's go.
amazing.
Hang on. Scratch that. I'm going back. I want like a Blink 182 era super. Or I want to. Oh, literally the metronome is breaking my brain. I want to. I want a Mesa dual rec with the tread
Oh,
plate. I've never had one, and I just want to play Blink 182 riffs.
I can see that. I can see that. Grilled or fried chicken.
Grilled.
Okay. A bucket list travel place.
Ooh. The Highlands of Scotland.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Favorite overdrive guitar pedal.
Ooh, this might have just changed this week. Nick Greer has become a friend over the last couple of years, and I just got a light speed from him that has
Yeah,
kind
buddy.
of dethroned the Morning Glory. Like I've had the Morning Glory on my board for 4 years,
Yeah,
and this
I know
one
you
is
have.
magical.
Yeah, it really is. There's something about that pedal. Like the hype is real. It's for real.
I don't get
Um,
it. I don't know what it does. It's just like my guitar, just a little louder and a little more gainy.
yeah, and in a really good way. It's not like saturation overdrive or
Yeah,
anything like
yeah.
that. It's truly organic. Um, Favorite preamp EQ pedal for acoustic?
Ooh, that's an excellent question. The LR Bag's Venue um,
Okay.
is almost perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Favorite movie quote of all time?
Oh, that's so hard. Of all time?
Well, it's one of your favorite movie quotes. Anything.
Okay. Oh, most of mine are just super downers. I'm going to do it. Okay. In Simon Birch, there's a part where he's talking about losing his mom. And it's the most like poetic and beautiful thing and so tragically sad. So it's about like the saddest thing about losing someone is not when the mail stops coming. It's not when their clothes stop smelling like them. It's when you stop remembering them in the little things.
Oh,
And dude, so I
that's
watched that.
heavy.
I watched that movie when I was young and whatever. And then I watched it in a hotel room like a year after my mom died, and it broke me.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's like yeah, super downer. Sorry for that.
No, no, no. That's a good one, man. That's a good one. All right, and the last one. What is a guitar that got away for you?
That's a really good question. Um, there was a custom shop Martin D42 that I owned about a year ago, and there was no way in which I could move enough money around to keep it, but it is the best Martin I've ever played.
Dang. Okay.
And it
How
was
come?
just the way, I mean, being self-employed, having little kids, running a YouTube
No, no,
channel
no. I
that
mean,
oh,
I mean, like, why is it the best? Why was it one of the
oh,
best you've
why
ever
was
played?
it was Carpathian spruce top, and then it was figured East Indian rosewood, but it had a gloss neck. So it was an 1 3/4 nut width, had a gloss neck, had a really crispy volute. It was just magical. Like, so most rosewood dreadnoughts are really boomy and really loud, and I'm not a loud singer, and so I can't ever get out over top of them. And with this one, it was just like subtle, and it's like getting a Les Paul that doesn't have super hot pickups. It's like, oh, it has all that warmth and breadth of tone, but it can chill and it can be more subtle and sound a little like a telly. So with this, it was just like it had some nuance to it, and it wasn't. I don't know, man. Like it, my wife even caught like that one was different, and the so the guy who I sold it to, so I got it and realized I couldn't keep it. We had to turn that pretty quick. I doubled my money, and I had 4,500 in it, and I doubled my money. And
Dang.
then the guy called me. He's like, "Hey, and this is a really wealthy guy. He's got a bunch of guitars like this." He's like, it doesn't do much for me. I think I'm gonna sell it. Do you want it back?" And I was like, "I don't like. I couldn't afford it at half that price." And now,
Right.
so
Yeah.
it sold. And I just asked him, I was like, "Hey, where did it go?" He's like, "I don't know." I'm like,
Mm.
"It's gone."
Dang. Into the ether. Into the
Yeah.
ether with you, guitar. Well, dude, that is, I mean, I don't know that I've ever seen you look that way on your face when you've talked about an instrument before.
Yeah.
Man. Well, Jeremy, I really appreciate you making time, especially hearing how busy you are and everything that's going on, man. So,
Man, no, it's fun because you and I like we keep up. Like you and I text pretty often about stuff and have inside jokes, and it just means so much that I'm even considered to be on the list to
oh,
do
dude.
this. I think you're doing such an incredible gig, and like I just love what you're doing, man.
Thank you, buddy. That means a lot, man. And we got some cool stuff coming up. Hey, did we ever talk about, are you into DAWs? I know I have an unhealthy obsession with DAWs,
Mm-mm.
but you need to listen to DAWs. Like, I really think you would enjoy, like,
Oh
especially
wait,
since you're into Isbell and stuff.
yes. Okay, never mind. Sorry, I thought you were talking like DAW, like.
Oh, like Pro Tools or
Yeah,
Logic
yeah. I
or
was
yeah.
like, no, I'm not into any of that. You're
No,
talking. Okay,
the
got it.
band.
You have sent me DAWs before, and I've listened,
Okay.
but
All right.
I'm not over the hump. Like I'm in, but I'm not.
I think you gotta. Okay. I mean, the only way I can describe, I mean, they have had such a huge impact on my life in the past since September.
I'm putting it in my
Um,
Spotify right now.
yeah, like listen to We're All Gonna Die. I think that was the record I sent you. But listen to like,
What was?
um,
Yeah, I remember this because we were texting and we were sending back. Like you were like, "Hey, what's your favorite?" And I sent you a couple things. I forget, but it
yeah,
was like
yeah,
in the
yeah.
fall.
Mm-hmm. But like, check out Good Luck with Whatever. I think you'd love that record.
Okay.
That's really good. Start there, and then if you go forward and listen to Doom Scroller, that's their most recent record. That's kind of like they're almost like starting to flirt with jam band vibes, kind of
Okay.
thing. But like better songwriting.
Okay. Misadventures of Doom Scroll. Okay, I found it now.
Yeah. So, but
Got it.
yeah, I think you're one of my friends who I think would really appreciate
Good.
their whole catalog.
Dude,
So
I've been into Nora Brown the last week.
I don't know that
So
artist.
she is like, I mean, it's completely not your thing.
Oh, okay.
She's old timey, drop thumb, gut string banjo. Like,
Okay.
but it's like, imagine Julian Baker singing like old timey music from the 20s. It
Okay.
is it's like the most beautiful banjo tone because it's gut string, so it's super warm and thick, but like old banjo tune. So it's like Jenny Put the Kettle On, like an old standard from the 20s.
Nice.
But it's so thoughtful and wonderful, and it just kind of like washes over you in this. Yeah,
Okay. Nora
it's so good.
Brown. Is that
Yeah,
what you said? Okay. I don't mind that stuff. That stuff is
yeah,
kind of cool to me. I enjoy it. So, all right. And so, BV, thank you again, per usual, BV, for moderating the
absolutely.
chat. We're going to throw up Jeremy's links right here so you can check everything out. And then, Jeremy, just one more time, tell everybody the store and what city it's in and everything if they
Sure.
want to.
Hometown Music Instagram is the Hometown Music on Instagram. It's hometownmusic.net, and we're in Harrisonburg, Virginia. We're in a college town, and we're Alvarez, Ibanez, PRS, Fender, Showalter guitars. I built a guitar with them. Alvarez Yairi, tons of cool guitars and drums, and yeah. And if you want to make records, let's hang out and talk and press records on vinyl. We do a lot of stuff.
Nice. Awesome. Everybody, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We'll see you next time.